Hi, everyone. Welcome to week 5. I can't believe it. It's insane that we're in week 5, and I don't know, the world around us has shifted forever, not just because of COVID, but also if you've been following what's happening in the United States with the protests. I spent, as you know from my background, almost 10 years in the States, Los Angeles and New York. So um, I've been following this quite thoroughly. And anyways, my mind is just blown as to how the world around us is completely shifting, even though we're still kind of meandering through this course. And that brings me to this week. I almost think that it's serendipitous that week 5 is really about morality, and how we come to make decisions and how we come to believe certain things about our world and create our truths and our narratives. And even though you're going to be reading a short story, or not even, it's a confessional story. It's a memoir, about an event, years ago, the Vietnam War. I feel like this story is probably more relevant now than, or it has a certain amount of significance given what we're witnessing in the world today. So this week, what you will be doing is you're going to be studying a memoir called, or a short memoir called On the Rainy River. Not even a memoir, sorry, a confessional story. I should start with that. Where Tim O'Brien takes us through his decision after he's drafted into the Vietnam War. He takes us through his decision-making process. He feels he has to make a decision about whether he's going to go or not go to war. And the reason he feels that is because while he's been drafted to go to the war, which is the law, he doesn't want to go. And he takes us through really his consciousness in making a decision. And if you're an astute reader, what I want you to notice is that when we have a big decision to make, it's not linear in our brain. We don't go from A to Z in a nice, neat little order. The way our brain works is it takes us through what a gentleman by the name of Kohlberg suggests is kind of these moral stages, where we come to make our decisions based on our maturity, based on our development, whether we make decisions rooted in just trying to please others, or whether we make decisions to please perhaps a god or a religion that we're connected to, or do we make decisions based on a moral compass that is somehow internal, that maybe perhaps we're born with? How do we come to make decisions about the world? And in reading this memoir, this confession, you're going to see how he's struggling with this decision and how he goes through all of these stages of morality in trying to make that decision. He's influenced by his own perceptions. He's influenced by his family. He's motivated to please the law. He's motivated to please his parents. He's motivated to please society, but how sometimes that at odds with his own moral fiber. And so that's what you're really reading for today. You're going to be doing a lesson on, first of all, you're going to have quite a bit of background on the Vietnam War so that you can read with some context. And you're going to be reading for being able to see the stages of moral development, and they don't go in order. So if we think about stages of moral development from, let's say, 1 to 8, we don't go from 1 to 8 in an order. We might make a decision at level 2 and then move to level 8 or level 1. And the videos that I've posted will explain what that means. But essentially, in summary, you're going to be reading a text. You're reading a text about a man who's forced to make a life-altering decision, and you're reading how he comes to make that decision and all of the stages of cognition and morality that he is faced with in coming to that decision. And then you're going to be doing an exercise to show me where those stages are. Now, when you're doing the assignments this week, I can't reiterate enough, you have to explain your reasoning. So for instance, if you're doing an exercise and it says, I want you to find a quotation that shows Tim O'Brien at level 1, And you'll know what that means when you look through the week. You can't just show me the quote. You have to explain how that quotation connects to the particular level. Why? Because everything is debatable this week. One student might say, you know what? I noticed in the story, Tim O'Brien is using a symbol about the meat packing, like about meat, his meat packing job. And that symbolizes that he's at level 1 because he doesn't want to disappoint his boss, for instance. Well, that exact same quote could be used for level 6. It's just how the student is able to argue. That is what I'm looking for this week. How you are able to take a piece of evidence and argue its connection to a stage using strategies in writing, basically, and cognition, how you're able to create an argument. So, for instance, just as an example to use, let's say what's going on in the world. So one might say, the protests in the United States for Black Lives Matter are really, demonstrative of level 2 of morality. That people are demonstrating, protesters are demonstrating because they they just view the world as being good and bad. They view the world in a dichotomy, that it's simple for them. And the narrative is that they're protesting because they think what the police did was bad and what the United States needs to do is good. Well, that would be considered level 2, very low in terms of cognition and how you arrive at a decision. Well, the exact same person could say, no, the protests are demonstrative of level 6, that there is so much wrong in the United States right now. There's so much institutionalized racism that the people who are protesting now are working from a moral fiber. Their morality is telling them, their ethics are telling them this is so much greater than right, or this is so much bigger than right or wrong. And they're operating from a place of ethics. Notice how I use the exact same example, but my argumentation for each level is different. That is what you're asked to do this week. You're asked to move through a text, choose key quotations, and then argue how they fit the stage that you're going to place them in. It's a difficult week that way. It requires a very high level of critical thinking this week. It's placed in week 5 because it's your last short text before we move into lengthier Shakespeare and novel study. It's placed in week 5 because you've had some training in quotations and analysis. And it's placed in week 5 because it's also one of the more difficult reads as far as finding what motivates the protagonist throughout the piece. You're also writing your critical essay this week. This is a timed critical essay. So in this case, for this week, as far as I remember, you get to see the topic ahead of time. So you get to see the topics and choose the topic you're going to write on, but you're actually in the lockdown browser this week, where I want to see a piece of writing where you feel a little bit of pressure under time. So that's what we're looking for this week. So make sure you review all the videos on critical essay writing from, I think it's week 2 or week 3 that I have those polished videos posted. Any handouts that I've uploaded in previous weeks on critical writing. All of that really is coming to a head this week in terms of what can you show me now within time. So again, yes, it's a big week. You don't get feedback on your essay this week because it's going to be in a time setting. And there's nothing really to solicit feedback on this week. I guess you could solicit feedback on the exercise that asks you for the direct quotations and the explanations. You could pop that in there and I can say yay or nay, like you need more or less or whatever. But anything else is actually, that's really it. There's a discussion and then there's an essay. So For your kind of knowledge, as you would have known from the first week, in the summer, our semesters are split between two instructors because this is where we're allowed to take our vacation. So you are going to be with me for another 2 weeks, this week and next week. And then I'm going to say goodbye for a while. I'm sure some of you are happy about that. And you're going to have Danielle. Danielle is going to be taking you through the Shakespeare component of the course. And she's also going to be taking you through the novel study. And I will return the last few weeks of the course. So I'll be away for about 7 weeks. And so by the time I get back, you'll almost be wrapping up. So just that's coming up. So just be sort of mindful of that. I haven't looked at any of the assignments yet this week. I'll be marking what you've just uploaded last night throughout the week. And that's it. So please hit me up with any questions or concerns, especially if you're reading the text this week. I can always provide feedback and clarification on the actual text, which I don't usually get a lot of questions on. But remember that the level of reading is always going to inform the level of writing. So oftentimes it's perhaps the comprehension that's influencing the writing style. So just be sort of mindful of that if you're struggling this week. And I will see you soon. Take care. And if I can figure out how to end the stream.